Hi, this is part 4 of the bouncing ball lesson. Up to this point, you should have something that looks like this. I wanted to point out, looking over top of frame 150 here, where we had the last keyframe, and I said you really should end up with your ball facing upwards so that when you continue to do more bounces and you come back into the stage area, it's just a little bit easier to be oriented this way, but it's not mandatory. If you need for your ball to be facing up right here and it's not, you can click in here and put in 0 for angle, or just click the reset button for that and it should put it at 0. So that's one way to accomplish that. Now you will need to do more bounces for your project, so let's review this methodology. I'm going to turn off my background so that you can see my path better. I'm going to go back to frame 90, okay, this one up here. This was a squash. And remember, the squash was 1.2 and 0.7, okay? And then let's see here, we got to go to frame 75. This was a stretch. That's 0.7 and 1.2. And remember, just to add a little bit of emphasis, we also stopped at the keyframe before and after the squash. So this is frame 65, and we had hit the reset button right here. It made all of these ones, and then 60 was the bottom, the squash, and then just before it on 55, we hit reset, so it made it all ones again right here. Okay, so that was sort of what was on the either side of the squash there, and it was the same case up there for up in 90. It was pretty similar at the beginning and the end too, but at 30 it was already at all ones. Okay, and at 35 we didn't bother because the ball started out as a round object there. If you should happen to want to add some very short, fast bounces, you probably wouldn't have the room to fit that in. Say you had a squash, and if it was very short and close together, you may not have any room to do the reset on either side of the squash. Okay, you might just be able to do a squash and then leading right into that, a stretch and then a squash again. Now let me go over here to 150 again. So you're going to want to have the ball come back in, and it's best to have the ball pause right here. You might want to have it pause for a half a second or a second. Remember, 1 second is 24 frames. So, and let me move over here on the timeline. Remember what to do if you want to have a pause. For one thing, you need to do animation, add keyframe, and then let's say I just go a little further to 168, say, and then animation, add keyframe. All right, that will cause the object to pause from here to here, and then you can just move along the timeline and do your next thing, whatever that might be. That might be returning back in. That may be moving it down here first before you have it return back in. But it's up to you. This is your opportunity to experiment and to figure this out on your own without just following me every single step of the way. Now for the project requirement, you need to add at least 6 more bounces. You can also have the ball roll. You can try and make it bounce fast. You can try and have it bounce slower. You can add other props, and you can animate those other props. I'm sure if you looked at the student examples, you see that a number of students also animated other objects in their final product. Now I've switched for a moment over to my completed project to remind you that you need to check on your total number of frames when you're finished. For example, my ball rocks back and forth and then stops. After it stops, whatever your ball motion is, be sure to give a couple of seconds at the end of the animation before you close off the ending. Okay, so I've got 492. is the last time my ball moves. And then I would want to add at least a couple of seconds, which could be, say, 550 or something like that, and I would type that into total number of frames. Now you can see that I have 600, and that's because I have a fade out, which you'll learn later in the semester. But for now, just be sure you check on your total number of frames before you render your animation. When you're all finished, remember to go to File, Export Animation. You can keep all these defaults, but if you want to, you can step the quality up to 100. And then upload your file to the video sharing service and embed that link into the classroom discussion forum. So good luck with the rest of the project, and if you're having any difficulties, just email me.